last year, I have found myself loving plants, but I need more room for them. So in this video, I'm gonna build a custom wall unit that not only gives this area some visual character, but also gives me plenty of space to put my plants. I have 2 enlarged window shelves and also 2 smaller shelves in the center, with the top shelf having a built-in grow light. Let me show you how I built it. First thing I did was hit the table saw and make a bunch of slats for that center section. I had a good size cutoff of walnut 3/4 in my shop, so that's what I'm using. Send whatever you already have on hand. Now I did want these kind of chunky, so I'm gonna put 2 pieces of 3/4 inch material together to make 1.5 inch thick verticals. To attach them together, I applied a little bit of wood glue down the center and then plopped on the mating part. Then I popped in a few brad nails to hold it together while that glue had time to set up. Keep in mind that if this is too chunky for your space, you could always do a single layer instead. Next, I used my CNC shop to cut out my shelves, which is a pretty simple design where I just scallop the front corners. If you don't have a CNC though, a jigsaw or a bandsaw would do the job. Oh, I also cut a backboard from some 1/4 inch plywood. Again, I just used what plans for this one, since it's so
Okay, this is recording with just the microphone. You should be able to hear we're talking in the background, and you should be able to maybe hear the TV going on back there. Let's listen.
Outlet I have. For this, I used a multi-tool.
2 ex-NASA engineers just created a portable MC that is making old expensive models obsolete. Our companies don't want you to find out about this. This new portable cooling system can drop our room's temperature by up to 30 degrees in just 90 seconds. And kicker, it uses almost no electricity. It's smaller than a toaster, cools any room in 90 seconds, and uses just a fraction of the energy of a regular AC. This incredible invention was built by 2 engineers, Thomas Berger and Leo Garcia, who used to work on thermal control systems for NASA space missions. We were tired of seeing people struggle every summer with broken ACs, $300 power bills, and unbearable indoor heat. And when the power outage during a heat wave left their families sweltering with temperatures soaring past 90 degrees.
Being dyslexic, I always have to test things out.
Okay, this is full screen and webcam and a microphone.
That's not too bad.
So you should obviously be getting stuff in the background.
It looks great. Nice. Good job, Ray. Now that I know that that fits, next I start attaching the slats, starting with the outside ones. These are very simple to install as they line up flush to the bottom as well as the sides of the backboard. And I'm using 1 1/4-inch screws here, and I put, I don't know, maybe about 6 per slat, making sure to sink the heads flush with that 1/4-inch board. Oh, and you know what I forgot to tell you? Before attaching these 2 slats, I cut the profile. The 2 outside
Okay, so
most
this
slats
is
are attached.
webcam,
It fits on the wall.
microphone,
Next is the single
and
top the
system
rest.
audio.
It's
So you should be
important that
getting
the
clear
front
system
face
audio,
matches the tongue on the
plus me
shelf.
talking,
So I actually
and
set one
probably
in
some
place and
background
make
noise
sure
from
that
the
the
TV.
spacer I'll be using matched its width before starting. These spacers are made from scraps and makes this job go quick and easy. I'm applying a little bit of super glue because my goal is to attach these slats just enough so that I can flip it over and run in screws from the back side. Oh, and you can see that I set an outlet cover in place so that I could visually see if the plugs would have room. If I got lucky and the opening fit perfectly in between slats, then I would have left the slat as is. However, it was going to interfere with the plugs, so I chopped the slat around the I was making the slats in my shop, I included a chaseway for the wiring that will go up to the grow light in the final assembly. To do this, I ran the slat through my table saw twice to create a cutout big enough for a thin cord. I let that set up for just a few minutes, then I flipped it all over and ran in a few screws per slat. Nice. Okay, at this point I moved the entire assembly over and pushed it into its key location. It's actually quite heavy, but I was able to manage. Just in case you don't know, if you have a window, you're gonna have
Okay, so this is microphone and system audio. So I'm talking over the system audio. You should get background noise too.
I set them in place, and then I used 3 trim head screws going directly into the sill on the back side. I had 4-inch steel. I made these shelves 10 inches, which leaves me a 6-inch overhang. I wouldn't recommend sitting on it, but setting plants on it, it's perfect for. And if you're worried about the holes, should you ever want to remove the shelf, don't forget how easy it is just to apply some wood putty, a little bit of paint, and then it's back to normal. Now the center shelves take a little bit more thought, but they are also simple to install. What I did is by eye, I drilled in a hole in this tab. Tape in order to mark off where I want the bottom of this shelf to land so that I can move this tab to the outside of the slot with my pre-drill in it. I'm going to line up the bottom with my tape right there, and now I'm going to transfer that hole location to the slot. Oop. Then I'm able to drill all the way through the slot. Now what I should be able to do is slide this into the inside, line it up with that piece of tape, and then put in a screw. Now typically this would just create a hinge point where this would flop. So what I did is I went back to the bottom side and I glued back on this back piece, but I cut myself a chaseway for the cord. Because remember, I'm gonna have a cord up here running along. So this way it'll be able to pass through this upper shelf. I'm using 3.5-inch screws here, which will not only go through that first slat, but also the tongue through the shelf and even into the second slat. It feels pretty good afterwards. Again, don't sit on it, but your plants, some knickknacks, a photo, absolutely great for it. Now, the second shelf is what is gonna have that grow light underneath it. And so I was very deliberate about the height since there are recommendations on how far a grow light needs to be from a plant. I would recommend picking out the size of plant you're gonna want on this lower shelf first, and then letting that dictate the height you place the second shelf. But then I attached it the identical way as that first shelf. Oh, goodness. Little touch-up paint. This thing will look good. Then it was just some touch-up paint, chasing the wire up to the shelf, installing the grow light, and then filling the area with plants. I am very in love with how this turned out. I'm very happy for the additional room and love getting rid of the individual stands and having this floor space back. Keep in mind that even if you skip the center design and shelves, you could easily add the window shelves to my space, but you can easily adapt the entire thing or even just a portion of this project for your own space. First thing I did on the install was cut around the items on my wall, which were the 2 sill profiles and also an outlet I have. For this, I used a multi tool. Being dyslexic, I always have to test things out. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Oh, it looks pretty right. It looks right! That's nice! Good job, Brain! Now that I know that that fits, next I start attaching the slats, starting with the outside ones. These are very simple to install as they line up flush to the bottom as well as the sides of the backboard. And I'm using 1 1/4 inch screws here, making sure to sink the heads flush with that 1/4 inch board. Oh, and you know what I forgot to tell you? Before attaching these 2 slats, I cut that profile of the windowsill into the back of them. This way I could push the entire assembly onto the wall and the verticals not be interrupted by profile. This does take a little bit more precision. So if you want to avoid it, 2 options that you can do. You can either narrow the design to eliminate the windowsills completely from being in the pathway of the verticals, or you could chop around the windowsills. Just 2 other options from the route that I chose. Okay, so the 2 outside most slats are attached. It fits on the wall, so next is to simply attach the rest. It's important that the first space matches the tongue on the shelves. So I actually set one in place and made sure that the spacer I'll be using matched its width before starting. These spacers are made from scraps and makes this job go quick and easy. I'm applying a little bit of super glue because my goal is to attach these slats just enough so that I can flip it over and run in screws from the back side. Oh, and you can see that I set an outlet cover in place so that I could visually see if the plugs would have room. If I got lucky and the opening fit perfectly in between slats, then I would have left the slat as is. However, it was going to interfere with the plugs, so I chopped the slat around the entire outlet. It's also worth mentioning that when I was way for the wiring that will go up to the grow light in the final assembly. To do this, I ran the slat through my table saw twice to create a cutout big enough for a thin cord. I let that set up for just a few minutes, then I flipped it all over and ran in a few screws per slat. Nice.
Quickest way to clear your dog's ears. Watch what olive oil does to your dog's ears.
Best way to clean your dog's ears? Cute.
Okay, this is recording with no video system whatsoever. It's just me talking on the microphone. In this instance, the noise reduction is turned on. Right now it's on. But at this time, there's no system or any kind of other sound, but I have turned off the remove background noise. Now let's see what it sounds like.